A little bit of background why we're here. In my search to strengthen my legacy for my three young adults, my three children, 2 girls and a boy, I actually found myself, I guess. I found inspiration from meeting a lot of women. And tonight, I'm meeting old friends and new friends. Women where you rise to the challenge to be leaders in your own field, integrating career, family life, motherhood, and inspiring other women like myself. I found my purpose, I guess, in a way. I want to be that woman who is there for other women. I want to be that woman who understands the needs of other women. And I want to be able to provide that platform for other women to lift up so that we can soar higher together. So during Circuit Breaker, when the world was in chaos, uncertainty, Motherswork launched a heart-to-heart conversation series where we got women entrepreneurs to share their learning experiences, their many challenges, motherhood challenges, family challenges, working from home, to share with our community of moms. And kicking off tonight is season 3. Before we know it, it's season 3 and we're celebrating International Women's Day. So I have you 4 amazing women with me, sharing your journey, obstacles to get to where you are, and your contribution to forging a more equal, more gender equal society that we live in.
Hello, evening everyone. My name is Nora Lisa. You can call me Nora. I'm a lawyer. I'm in-house and I manage a team of women, mothers and single women across China and Asia. And we handle mergers and acquisitions in Singapore and across Asia. So it's a privilege for me to work with women, to hire women to understand how they tick, to understand what the barriers are in the corporate world. Aside from that, I used to be Miss Universe Singapore.
Wow!
20 years ago, when, a long
I could tell.
And thereafter, I wanted to be able to stay in touch with my community. So I do television sometimes, and we hosted the first talk show for Malay Muslim women in 2019, and that was to bring forth the issues affecting minority Malay Muslim women to the fore. I really enjoyed that, and I'm really eager to continue the conversation, not just about women, but also about minority women tonight.
My name is Rowena. I run an advertising agency. It was an advertising agency that I set up together with some creative partners about 4 years ago. And just recently, a month ago, I joined an international network. So the agency I was with has obviously been acquired and has joined the international network. So it's a very interesting journey. I have the privilege of raising 2 teenagers, as they would say. But in addition to that, I also am a really big volunteer, and I volunteer with tons of women for certain causes that I like in the community. I think, just like Nora, I think all of us seek some level of continuous inspiration. Every step of our journey. So whether it is the people that we're working with, whether it is clients that we're servicing, whether it is people in the same tribe that we are volunteering with, or whether it is even our teenagers. And I think the beauty of something like this, where we get to share, we get to exchange our thoughts, and we get to go home reflecting and feeling a little bit more like it's a richer experience because of our collective experiences is quite special. So really happy to be here.
Hi everyone, ladies, good to meet you. Old friend, new friends. I founded Skinning 12 years ago. Had a mid-career switch. Also IT for 11 years. So in IBM, Oracle, know nothing about beauty and skincare. But decided I found my purpose actually through my motherhood. That 2 of my kids suffered from eczema, just like myself and my husband. So decided to reboot beauty debunk about the myth of ingredients and blending tech into beauty. So that's how we founded the world's first skin supplement bar for every woman or man out there. So we are able to customize to your skin anywhere in the world today using big data as well as AI. But what has been an exciting journey that I never expect, because I was born into a family of 3 older boys and being the only girl and working night shift for 11 years, so a good part, 34 years of my life, I'm almost 90% with men. So I don't know how a woman really think or feel, because it's just not a second nature. So a good 34 years, right? So when I first gone into the beauty industry and hired a whole team of women, and I probably hired hundreds of them by now, I realized that there is something really different and special. It is the bond and the emotion connection. And through it, it energized me, because the way they rise up to the challenges, or the way that they are able to, take it all in and yet deliver, on the dot. It just inspired me to be a bigger woman, to be able to be a leader where we continue to grow from strength to strength together. So March is always a very special month for us, because I feel that personally we have a lot of close girlfriends, women entrepreneurs encouraging each other. We even are able to be vulnerable to each other. I could call up Sharon and you know what, I'm really pissed someday, right? But without any reason, I just say, I just need a drink with you. And she showed up at 5 p.m. And that is the magical, feeling of a relationship, of forging the wall together. Yeah, and thank you for having me, Sharon.
Well, I think my journey is not unlike anybody else's. My name is Julie. I run a food distribution company. I also run some restaurants, and soon I will be going into cafes. So you can say I'm truly in the F&B world. Started my journey when my son was 1. I popped out the kid, and I thought at that time, very cleverly, I thought, well, if I wanted control of my own time, I should start my own business. Now, I didn't know, of course, that was the
we don't know
silliest
better,
thing on
right?
earth. And then I went on to think, what can be easier than fixing a sandwich? So I started a sandwich plant. And that was the worst thing you can do, because for everything else, you cook the thing after. But with a sandwich, you can't. So it's one of the most complicated things. Sandwiches and salads are one of the most complicated things to do on a mass basis. So I started my journey like that. It's called looking for a hard life in every way possible. And then my second kid came along. So the journey got a little bit more complex. I don't think I particularly look out for women to hire. I don't particularly think of whether I'm hiring a male or a female. I tend to hire for functions. And I think it's only later in my life that I take a step back to actually look at my team and assess their strengths based on gender. And I think it is a latter move, not something that I do consciously. No, I don't consciously hire a female. I don't consciously hire a male. So I think that's my kind of journey with gender equality so far. And so that's me, and I thank you for inviting me for dinner. I think it's going to be a good dinner.
So I'm Sharon. I founded Motherswork, your one-stop total shopping experience for women to journey into motherhood and beyond. By the time I had my 3rd child, I had a list, my little black book of what to buy and when to buy. And because of that, I wanted to share this with other women out there when they journey into motherhood. And today, 23 years later, we're here to celebrate women. Like I said earlier, I found my purpose. It wasn't just to journey with women into motherhood and beyond, providing them efficient products so that they have quality time to raise their babies. But it is now at a level where I want to be that woman for other women. So my business is about family.
You know what? If we don't stand up for other women, no one else will. So when it comes to like, say, my staff, right? I do push them in terms of like when they're applying, when I look at their CVs, I think that women undersell themselves. Like, so for instance, a woman has to be absolutely confident that she can do a job before she would put herself forward for it.
When I'm actually interviewing two people, I would actually deliberately give a tick. I'll still look for that point of differentiation between them that would allow me to decide which one is a better fit for the job. I don't think it would be a gender tick.
I disagree simply because I think that's why the gender pay gap still exists. When it comes to, you know what, we will automatically, it's human, it's psychological, that you hire people who look like you, who talk like you, who are educated in the same way as you, right? So, and that's just, it's an unconscious bias that we have.
Yeah.
So I do believe that in order to break it, you've got to have more female hiring managers who can understand the differences and what a woman brings to the table. Especially if also, you know, of course there are other things to think about, the dynamics of your team, the dynamics of your customers, because women bring different perspectives to the table compared to men.
Yeah.
So achieving that is important.
One way of breaking the gender thing is to make sure that women are impartial. So they are seen as impartial. They are seen as just as good without the crutch. So for me, that's how you overcome it. And you know, I've met a whole bunch of women, and we all agree at the table. And that is, most of the women there usually forget they are females when they are at the workplace. And because we forget and we don't use it, or it's not a crutch for us, I think most of the time, the ones who are at the top, you know, that float to the top, are the ones who just forget that they are females. They just do what they need to do to get the things done.
So I think one is they need to forget that they're females. Two, I think a bit of what she shared, Nora shared too, they have to posture themselves, right, in the best possible. Like, I'm best for this job. Here's my elevator statement as to why, this is my 30 seconds, as to why I'm best for the job. And they need to sell themselves well, not because they're women, but because they have to have that confidence to know that, you know, due to what is needed, I can do that job. Actually, in fact, I can do that job better than anyone else, regardless, men, women, doesn't really make a difference. And I think that's the point.
I'm the person for the job.
I'm the person for the job, exactly. I'm the person for the job, and I'm the person that will be able to achieve all the multifaceted KPIs you have. Where a woman is extremely multifaceted, she can get what you need to get to and be able to tick off all the other boxes and do that with the right poise to be able to get you to what you need to get to. And I think that is the point. It's about how in today's day and age, who would be, you know, I guess the most versatile, the most adaptable to change, to be able to tick off that box.
If that's the case, right, why are we still talking about data? Data shows that there are not enough women in leadership roles, not enough women on boards,
in C-suite.
My understanding is we enter the workforce as 50-50. And
a
halfway in the workforce, that number drops, and the issue becomes then who gets up, right? To that board member. So actually we enter the workforce.
Exactly. So, you know, so I think we're all saying different things which are absolutely factually grounded. So when you enter the workforce, yeah, sure, you get in there and you make waves through your competency. But our responsibilities as leaders, when we climb up the rungs, to actually be able to groom female talent, to hire female talent, and to help them attain and break through the barriers which may be present, whether in organizations or in society, is slightly different. That's why I do advocate for hiring and promoting women, all other things being equal. If I have two candidates up there who are, and they're both smashing it, they both made it, I will still hire them.
I'd like to talk about what Sharon just said, which is the proportion. The women are not leaning in. Okay? They don't necessarily go for that chance you are talking about when it comes to a promotion thing, something like that. When they do, and they are both in front of me, I will still be looking for that differentiating point to hire for that job.
I think all things being equal, from a capability standpoint, I look out for the will to want the job, the heart that want the job, right? Because that will then take them beyond their capability. If they are in leadership role, how they will treat the team and how they will groom the team, because that heart. And so hence therefore, I feel that in different level, definitely mid-career wise, when a woman became a mom, naturally they have to sort of prioritize and balance out. So I'm a deep believer of energy management more than time management, because I started skinning when my kids were 3-year-old and 1-year-old. Right, and I when in retrospect, when I look back, it was absolutely insane. It was an insanity with a purpose. But because of that purpose, it has seen me through the years of the super dog myself in the car park, and God, that's all I have day in, day out for the first 5 years of entrepreneurship. So I feel that
Just the first 5 years?
You know the drill, right? It gets harder and harder. Everyone thought that startup is hard. When to sustain the startup is even harder, right? For her, that's why I respect Sharon a lot. 23 years, and just now I was just counting. So you're plus 10. Me, I'm like, wow, would I be this good at 10 years later? Right? But coming back to the point where it is all human, is the will to thrive, the will to survive that will see you through, that grit and tenacity, which I hope that the second generation after us have that, that hunger,
the ability. I mean, the want to lean in, right? The want to want more.
Whether we call it compromise or change or whatever
Inclusion.
it is, but it is about inclusion. It's about adaptability. But yes, we all have to recognize that this soft networking is part of getting ahead. But the key to it is in a way that is inclusive. It is in a way that does not make people feel like, oh, it's either you either do it or you're out, and all that. And of course, to extend that influence, to show whether you call it power or whatever it is, that influence of saying, hey, cool, let's do drinks this week. Guess what? Next week I'm going to host this. Let's try and do that next week so we can do a mix.
or invite all the men to your house.
Yeah, or whichever it is that, that collectively based on your insight of everyone, everyone would enjoy in that same way, such that you get inclusion from everyone. I think.
But then you see the females have to step up.
Yes,
they have and lean in to do that.
Yes.
Right? They should not
agree.
They should not be standing from where
absolutely
and then saying,
include me.
Yeah,
So,
they
correct.
did that. No, but I asked, did they not include you? And they said, no, they included me, but I can't turn up. So it's very true what you just said. Turn it into a lunch event, right?
Yeah.
Do it proactively, but how many of them are of that bent to say, I'm doing this to,
So my previous life before I became an entrepreneur, I worked for an MNC.
Yeah.
It is an education. So in the Asia Pacific office, I was one of 3 women. The rest were expat men and men. And when we have a company retreat, right after your talk, the CEO of APEC says, soccer guys. And one of my other female colleagues, who's the legal counsel, stepped up and said, what about something that includes women? Right? Why must it be a soccer game? We are all here for a retreat.
Yeah.
Why can't we have a game that includes women? It's not like we're not leaning in, we're here, aren't we? We left our children at home to spend a weekend with all our colleagues. Why must this be soccer?
speak up, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And the CEO said, fine. Let us play our soccer. And then after, we will play whatever game you guys want to play.
You see, that's where I think that, as you know, if half the table actually was constituted of female leaders, the conversations will be different. So the challenge is, how do you get women from the junior positions up through middle management and then into C-suites, right?
So what is that barrier?
So
what is that
halfway
challenge?
through, it, like you were saying, Rowena, the numbers fall off the cliff.
Yeah. So why? What is that challenge? What is the barrier to that?
Sponsorship, we hire people who are alike to us. That's one. Men naturally find sponsors. Women don't have sponsors and don't know how to find those sponsors at a leadership level. And there's been a Harvard study which talks about the importance of actual sponsorship in order to help women through the ranks. The other thing, of course, is motherhood, right? At certain points in time in our life, we prioritize different things. And of course, naturally, some people, some mothers may feel, all right, I don't want to pursue a career. I'd like to spend my time with my family, and that's laudable and that's wonderful.
But because of that, that's a natural attrition,
Yes.
right? So that natural attrition should not be discounted. The number of people I know who are highly qualified, whether it's academically or so, deciding to completely not work, right? That's a high number. And usually, the ones who can afford it. So, let's talk about socioeconomic status. We're talking about lower socioeconomic status when the families all have to work because they don't have a choice. The whole family has to bring in the dough. Trust me, this conversation is not happening. Yes, they will find a way to get help for the kids and they have to get back into the workforce. It's usually women who are quite well educated or married to men who are quite well educated or can afford to keep them in style while they are not working. At the end of the day, it's women with choice. And they are the same ones who could have made it to the C-suite. Some of them, not all of them. Just like every male, not every female, just because you're well educated, can make it to the C-suite. Just like every female and males alike, right? It's not everyone. But the ones who could have, they are in that same strata of the ones who could afford not to work. Many. And the ones who cannot afford to talk about not working, they are still working.
But no, so it doesn't explain why it is when you get to C-suite levels, the numbers, I mean, it doesn't even take into account.
There's a huge attrition.
It's not that many. Many people return to the office, but then, return to work. But when you get to like just global C-suite levels in big MNCs, there is such a huge gender gap. It's the gender pay gap is insane.
But see, that's the problem. The problem is that at some point they probably feel that their expectations for themselves or the balance that they want to exercise in their life. So if they go back to work, they will choose not perhaps the promotion, not to take.
I think a lot of it has to do with choice too. So maybe a different perspective, right? So and as Julie mentioned, there's different socioeconomic groups, and a lot of us chose, and a lot of my mothers that I know, they chose to not continue because they want to be the mother that they want to be. And that's one of the motto that we always promote: be the mother you want to be. Don't let anyone guilt you. Not the other women who want you to stay in, not the other men who want you out, but be the woman, be the mother you want to be. And I think that's literally what we're always saying to support. Right. But what you're saying, Nora, is that some of these choices are not by choice for women.
For the ones who do return or who never left, they just took their maternity leave and are still climbing, there is still prejudice against them. And so why are they not reaching the higher echelons of management? Because the numbers are not such that the disparity reflects just the attrition levels. The numbers are so skewed that, for instance, if you look at the boards of most of the MNCs, you actually need affirmative action to have non-executive directors who are female to introduce that diversity quota, which in some countries now the gender pay gap is becoming part of regulation. So why is that the case? It's because there's not enough sponsorship, there's not enough affirmative action to get women there. Prejudices still exist, glass ceilings still exist.
That was gonna lead to my next question. What do you think, Rowena? Glass ceiling?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I hear. Okay, so I think that they exist in some industries more than others.
Yes.
I think that's. I wouldn't say it's for every industry, to be honest. But I do think that they exist in some industries more
Probably
than others.
oil and gas is very
Yes.
representative.
I do think that the next generation will change it. I think like we look at the young millennials of today, and I can't imagine them living with this glass ceiling in certain industries. I actually think so. I think with the rise of social media, with a lot more discussions happening about this, with a lot of this noise, I actually am. This is the one thing I think that they might change, which I think is quite positive. So I do, to answer that, I do think for certain industries it is a very common situation, and therefore then people celebrate when there are women in that C-suite in that particular industry, and they go, it's like such a, oh my god, how did that happen? You know,
Rowena, you used the word celebrate.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago, I read an article that really got me upset. This lady is a CEO. She was talking about her experiences being CEO and mummy, and this was an article that was talking about how, she was describing it like her battle stories, her battle scars, and she was talking about it. So there was one particular incident she was talking about. She was talking about how she was folding her daughter's clothes, and she remembered her elder daughter in that dress, but not her second daughter. And then she also mentioned that she couldn't get help on the day she was supposed to go back from maternity leave. She couldn't get help with the kid, so she strapped the baby on and she took the baby with her because she had to show up for work. And you should have seen the remarks made by the people in the comment section. They were at her. They were bloodthirsty. They were saying things like, it is not you who paid for your success, it is your daughters. And these were mothers. These are women. I would never, ever make decisions like yours. If you're going to make a decision like that, do not have a child. You have no right to have children and behave like this. And this went on like, I'm talking about thousands of comments, Yes. And it was just, I was in shock because they were so negative. Only a few people spoke up for her. So I decided to speak up for her. And I wrote and I said she should be celebrated. And she's telling you the stories like a war veteran talks about their own battle stories, her battle scars. Yes, her sacrifices are huge. So I said, so what are you actually saying? That a woman like this should not get married and should not have children? Is that what you're saying?
I actually think if we talk about the elephant in the room, we need to get into a space where, women need to stand up for other women and not necessarily be in a situation where, we do this whole, I want to try and make sure this person is the only one that succeeds, or I'm the only one that succeeds. And therefore then, it becomes, because that's always a thing, right? How many times have we heard people say, it's much better to have a male boss? How many times we've heard people say, actually I prefer a male boss, but that's because they have experiences where they feel that women bosses
Are tougher?
Well, not just tougher, maybe a bit or things like that. And actually it comes from, so in addition to the sponsors point about, the point about having more sponsors to actually champion these women, I would say the next point is actually having women who, step up for other women too.
Yeah.
So like what you did with the article, right? Having somebody to say that actually there's nothing wrong with that. That has nothing to do with that individual and her capability at work. She just had a situation, just like how if today my daughter, when she was younger, if she was sick, I would say, hey, I need to hang on to attend to her. But once I saw that, I'll get back onto this. I'll get back online and I'll sort this. And I don't think there's anything big about that or small about that. It's just the balance. It's just
Exactly,
inspiration.
and that's what that is what sponsorship is, right? It's like it's you speak up for someone else. You can't, as a woman, we can speak up for other women because we understand what women go through.
So what do you think, Serena? How important is it for women to lift each other up, to step up for each other, right?
When I asked my team, what kind of leader do you think I am? Because I wanted a 360, right? They say you are a radical candle. That means you're a radical candle. You speak your mind, but with kindness. So the empathetic leadership actually, I think, is the most important today in the COVID world. Despite whether you're a man or woman, because I think the world truly needs more empathy and kindness. In our words, in our action, as well as in don't shoot first, but really think through and put yourself into the person's shoes to say, how would I deal with this? But not necessarily you have life answer, right? If everyone have an answer to life, then why are you living, right? You live your life. So to me, it's very important as leaders that we translate that culture of, if you choose to be a superstar or a rock star, I appreciate your value in that role. And I look at your imperfection as an opportunity to develop. So in my environment where there are so many women, in fact, most of my retail team has stayed with me from 7 to 10 years, which is pretty unheard of in beauty retail. But that's because as a woman leader, I appreciate them investing their time and career with me than their children at home. Like many of them didn't see their kids for 1 year because they have to leave Malaysia to come here to work in the retail field. But with that, then we sort of created this support structure where instead of you taking 2 days off per week, I allow them to accumulate 8 to 10 days off for 3 months, and they could go away for 1 full month, which is meaningful with this pre-COVID, right? And because of that, it sort of created a culture where I will work 12 hours for a colleague because so that she could go home to see her children. And I think it's all about the leadership belief and mindset to say, I make a conscientious choice to wrap a structure and a process around to support you being her, and I celebrate you being her. So, or even as a woman leader. So with that, coming back to where we were, looking at, I feel that it's all about mindset. Be it skin color or female or male from a gender perspective. Frankly, I was quite unbiased because I didn't know that was a bias. So when I came on the table in the boardroom, I just create value as much as possible as an individual. Not so much whether I'm a woman or
A
I
woman.
don't think that
Yeah.
You are a woman.
I don't think that way, So I hope that my team and more women will think that live your life. Don't really have to think of what others think of you, because I feel that it's your life. You have to make a stand, and of course stand up when you see there's injustice, stand up when you see there's unkindness. But more importantly, just build each other up to be a better being, because we're human beings. We're not, we have to be in it, in the flow. So yeah, that's my take. That just have to be more empathetic. Yeah.
Do you think you had to make some personal sacrifices?
Along the way, lots of personal sacrifices. In fact, I would say almost on a weekly basis, you end up saying that you're making a personal sacrifice, but you do it. I think you do it because you think, or at least it's come to a situation where you integrate both parts of their lives really, really well.
And I think women supporting women, and maybe we use the word inspiring or lifting each other up. Yeah, and I think that is something that work wonders for a lot of women. Reaching out to someone,
I'm often in my store and their mom's coming up. It's like, oh, thank you so much. I feel so much better. And like I said, for new mothers, success to me today is when a young mom leaves Motherswork a little bit less overwhelmed.
But I also think that, life teaches us lessons school never can. And you were speaking about empathetic leadership. The older we grow as women, the more we understand how multifaceted a woman's life is. We start off as daughters, and a lot of the time women bear a disproportional burden in terms of the responsibility to take care of your parents. Women are also mothers, we're also wives, and daughters, wife, all of those responsibilities on top of us being the entrepreneurs or employees means that we have a lot to juggle. So I do think that empathetic leadership is really what's called for in this day and age, and that women, when you've gone through something or when you understand a woman's perspective, you can speak out more for that person. You can understand what they're going through and you can help them more. So while I've worked, I've been sent to London. I've worked in London, I've worked in Holland, and I was sent to Nigeria as well. So I was surrounded I had police bodyguards around me every time I flew into Nigeria, and I worked there. It's always a test of ambition. During the time I was there, my dad had a triple bypass, my mom had ovarian cancer, and it was tough, and you balance it out because it's like, all right, this really sucks. I really want to be home with my mom and my dad, but I also have my dreams. And at a certain point in time, you have to decide what you want. Now, I feel that when it comes to the women who I work with, whether it's in my team or outside my team in the company, I love having chats with them to truly understand, what is your dream? What do you want to do? And how can we help you get there? You don't necessarily have to play by these rules. It doesn't mean that if you cannot succeed just playing these rules, that you will never succeed. There's a way of finding it, and I think the more female leaders there are who will speak about it, who will find ways to help these women succeed, then the better we are as society. Because I think 50% of our population is women.
But also, my youngest is a boy, and we have 2 boys, and you have a boy. And I think the generation coming is that we educate our boys. The next generation that will come will not have to have that mindset.
The way forward is education is definitely one thing, and different generations, things would just naturally move along. So I think when you start looking at all aspects of society, then I would say that I don't think that it is structurally that difficult for women to pull ahead now. It's whether they have the will, they have the, they want it. I think at the top, the boys' club is still very strong.
In today's world, women leadership definitely is much needed in a COVID world.
Yeah, it's much needed, and it is changing.
Even motherhood and pregnancy
It's changed completely.
I think
so we have a whole
the information you exchange about it.
So we started this whole making a motherhood podcast where we share all the dirty truth about motherhood. So we're talking about all sorts of issues, which is very normal, but no one would talk about. So we're trying to normalize, right? So I think some of us who are leaders in our own industry, we like to believe that we are able to be that leader, to help propel things to change and normalize. What is the greatest risk that you've taken?
The leap of faith when I choose to leave mid-career from IT to an industry that I know nothing about. It's really, and that was during the time when the kids was really young. Because I believe that it's not about the sacrifice, but it's the purpose that you are something you believe so deeply in that there's no doubt. There's no room for dispute. There's no doubt. You just know 100%. And that is actually a blessing on its own. Because I don't see the walls. I just see the opportunity. So I think that has really brought me a lot of courage and confidence that this is blessed.
For me, the biggest, as I said, I was telling you about Nigeria. when I was harping to them. It's like, I want an expat posting, I want to live overseas, because I come back from London and I come back from Holland, and I really loved it, right? I love seeing the world. It's like, and learning so much about new cultures and stuff. And I said, I want an expat posting. So they're like, all right, we've got a job for you, Nigeria. I was like, I didn't want to go there.
So be careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah.
You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer.
Yeah, it's like, job, and at that point in time, I spoke to my mentor, who is a man, and I asked him. They gave me two choices. They said, you can go to Holland to headquarters without a promotion, or you can go to Nigeria and get a promotion. What do you want? And he was like, isn't it obvious? This is a test of ambition. Yeah. And I took Nigeria.
So you're leaning in, right?
I took Nigeria.
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm trying to say to you, Noah. You see, not everyone would have made that decision. And when they do, they get paid for it. I mean, they get the rewards.
But you know, here's the thing.
Regret it.
No, hang on, guys, right? In terms of leaning in, right? Yes, absolutely. Every woman has to lean in, has to step up. But in terms of helping them to lean in, that's what I believe that a role of a female, where the role of a female leader comes in. It's to tell your team, you are underselling yourself in that CV. I want you to put this and this and this and highlight your points. There's a job promotion that's available. I want you to go for it. You may think you're not good enough. I believe in you. I think you're good enough. Put yourself out there. And it's not just leaning in, it's almost like pushing them and like, come on, you can do this. Be that cheerleader for them. That's what I feel that is missing for women. But yeah, going back to the risk, right? I went to Nigeria. I had the time of my life. The legal issues were some of the most complex that I've ever dealt with. You know, every day was kidnapping, oil leaks, environmental issues, being sued by communities. It was fascinating stuff. Absolutely loved it. My parents were undergoing serious health issues, and yeah, so I think that was personal sacrifice. I was tired. I was really tired because I was flying up and down between Singapore and Holland, where I was based, every month, like I was taking a bus. But yeah, you go through these things, and I think they shape you to become the woman that you are now.
Yes.
To become empathetic, to understand that different women have different dreams. So I have moms in my team. I have single women who are unmarried in my team. I have women with sick parents. And I think all of that molds us to become kinder.
But yeah, but you can't be all for everyone.
But you
right?
can try.
You
know?
Yes, you can try, but they must want it too.
With the millennial mothers, right? Because I think we stop playing the victim card, and they sort of like, I have control.
I have choice.
I have
Yep.
control, right? I do feel that millennial mothers are changing the way that they are able to make
that
very
decision.
conscientious.
I like the way you say victim card.
Yeah.
But you know what,
Stop
Sabrina?
playing the victim card.
The issue which I have is when an opportunity is not given to a woman because an assumption is made by men that she can't do it because she's a mom. So for instance, in beauty, in skin, in fashion, in fact, it's very female dominated. In certain other industries, tech, oil, energy, different, right? But having said that, in terms of the qualities of a leader, do I still think that we still need more leaders who are female, who are in C-suites, and whether we need sponsorship? Absolutely.
Absolutely, but we must want it though. We need to come forward. We need the next generation of men to be empathetic and to understand.
And women to be empathetic too.
And women to be empathetic.
Yeah.
So as a mother of two girls.
Yeah, so I think three things. I mean, absolutely agree. So I think the first thing is women have to. So one is somebody should open them up to say, hey, there is this opportunity, agree, step up, but you need to step up.
Mm-hmm.
And when you step up, you can step up and do it on your own terms. Totally fine. And I think that is the point of the millennial.
Get the job done.
Yes.
As long as you get the job done,
Get the
do
job
it on
done.
your terms, and you get the job done in the way it needs to be done, and therefore then stand out, step up. And all you're doing is you're just affirming and telling them, I actually am behind you. You know, I am that cheerleader for you. I'm behind you, and guess what? You should go do that with the rest of your team, because that's what we want, right? And I think that's the point. So I think that's absolutely correct, but I do think that more women should recognize that we need to do this to get more people up. Absolutely agree, and they need to step up and not, and they should shine irrespective of, oh my God, there's only one person on top, I need to vote for more women. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about the fact that they
Not a
already
quota
shine.
system,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
and therefore they deserve it.
Yeah, I've met people who says, I want to work 3 days a week, but you know, I'm passed over for CEO. You can't be a 3-day CEO.
So my best,
So get
and
that
I have people who have go through patches. Things are bad, going through a bad marriage, not getting the support from the, and you know that they're capable of something. And what you do at that point is you actually tell them or share with them that I've been there before. These are 3 things I tried to do. You know, if this doesn't work, then tell me. Maybe we can figure out a short-term solution. And I mean, I think your point of like leading with empathy, but the end goal has to be clear. Because the end goal is something that, whether they work with you or they work somewhere else, you want that woman to succeed.
Yes.
So you want that woman to be performing at her optimum. So I totally think the answer is probably to show or share with her that I've been there. I've had these issues. You know, I've had a child in hospital. I've had issues with whatever. But the point is that you figure out then what is that solution, and you make up for it. You find a way to make up for it.
Yeah, so let's, on that point, right, Sabrina, what do you think, what advice would you give to a young woman starting out?
You know, being comfortable in your own skin is something, you know, is quite literal, right? That, and first of all, I always ask them, you know, begin with the end in mind. How do you envision yourself, you know, being a mom, starting a family, or do you envision yourself being a career woman? Because I think it's important. You every day when you make certain decisions, it affects the outcome eventually 5 years to 7 years down the road. So I often share with them that you need to be pretty clear, even though if you really don't have, or you're not that clear, you will have certain inclination. So don't shortchange yourself and talk yourself into what other people feel that you should conform to. So very important being, you know, embracing your best self and just focus on being your best self. So that means how do you grow, how do you learn, how do you, you know, even be able to make an impact in anything. So that is very important to me, because it's your progress mindset that will set you apart eventually, instead of I want to be that, you know, lean-in CEO or COO, you know, so to speak, because everyone's life journey is so unique.
Yeah.
So being your own unique self is so important.
What about you, Julie? What is the best advice you've been given in relating? Let me finish my sentence. Relating to your job.
The best advice I've received. Very first big boss, when I quit, he actually said to me, don't make it a habit to quit. And make sure that you're not quitting just because you're a quitter, you know?
I think that they're the similar challenges as women now face. And that is, A, how do you create a brand of leadership which appeals both to men and women? And I think for that, you know, it's okay to create your own style. And the most important thing is that it's okay to be humble. Humility in leadership is probably the most important facet. To understand that you can make mistakes, you will make mistakes. You need to listen and to learn from each mistake so that you don't do it again. But it should not take away from your own self-esteem and your own abilities as a professional, as an entrepreneur. Don't ever, I think women doubt ourselves a lot. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be humble and admit to your mistakes. Don't be defensive about it.
Yeah.
And as long as you learn from it, that will propel you to greater heights. But never doubt your own abilities and your own capabilities. So when you stop believing in yourselves in life, in work, in whatever, then it's half the game lost.
I think women try to be perfect most of the time.
Yes.
So don't make perfection a trade-off of your productivity. So especially in COVID work, I keep reminding my female leaders, because they always have to feel 100% confident before they give it. I see a lot of my female leaders being crippled by over-analysis.
And it's perfection in life, right? They want to be the perfect mom, to be the perfect professional, to be the perfect boss.
But that's exactly something I wanted to say. I think being forgiven, I think women need more forgiveness towards themselves.
Be kind to themselves.
And towards others. I think forgiveness, forgiving themselves, it's very difficult for them.
At this moment, what is one legacy you would like to leave your children?
At home, whatever they choose to do. I always, like, to me, I think the balance of grace and grit is really important. And I think for me, grace and grit, I mean, everything we talk about, everything my dad taught me is always about roll up your sleeves, do whatever it takes to make it happen. Just like the advice that I've given a job unless you've got another one. All these things you learn, but it comes from
That's
the
so
core.
familiar. Never quit unless you have
Unless you
another job.
But it all comes from the core of
This is
the
Asian,
fact
no?
that all comes from the core of the fact that it has to come from tenacity, resilience, hard work, courage, all of these things. But I think the X factor, is a lot of what we talked about, just this thing of grace, about having respect, dignity, the right values to be able to be a human being, right? And not just even if you're not a big time leader, but to make a difference to society. If I am out there and I'm helping my kampong in some way or the other, if my neighbor needs help or whatever it is, and I think that's important. I think the one advice, or at least the one thing I hope that my children will grow up to is to be individuals, like humans with grace and grit.
Yeah.
I like the grit part. I think that's missing. I think that's one.
We don't emphasize enough.
Yeah, we
I
don't
think.
emphasize enough
Yes.
grit, not just in young ladies, but also grit in young men.
What about you, Sabrina? What legacy? What would be one legacy you'd like to leave your children?
To me, they each have their own calling, right? And I often say, I'm not a tiger mom. In fact, I'm in none of the group chat of parents because my husband gave up on being in one. So I never felt any competition or how moms in school behave. And I think that was a blessing on its own, right? Because I'm just being very happy, loving the kids, and and I'm often the maverick that, let's get up. Mom, I have tests. I'm like, okay, but it's okay. Life is a test. Life is filled with tests, right?
Yeah.
So what is this test about? With them, I always say it's the grace of God that you are here today, but it's the grit truly that will bring you to life. But more importantly, find your calling. I found my calling, and I had that 3 big rocks that make my life so simple. My life is super complex, super hectic, but I find the deep joy inside me that centered me all life. No matter what chaos I have around my life, I'm very centered in that sense of that values, which is, because I know my calling.
Yeah, and for me, to my 3 young adults, we always say, be kind, have courage, to find passion, and be the best you can be, not more, but no less. To me, it is that simple. And thank you, everyone, for sharing. Thank you so much for joining me. And now, new friends become old friends.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And we can come cheers.
Cheers!
Cheers.